Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a great honor for me to be here with you in order to make a very, very important point to all of the government officials that are meeting across the way in the stadium. And it's really simple. In order to have peace and security in the Middle East, there has to be a major change in the theocratic dictatorship in Iran. It must end, and end quickly, in order to have peace and stability. We want to make sure that in discussing how to bring peace and stability to the Middle East, that there's a major focus on Iran and a real honest discussion of what's been going on there. Because I think there are people that ignore the terrible atrocities that the theocratic regime has been responsible for. And until that ends, it's very hard to figure out how to determine peace when a major nation is trying to undermine peace in Lebanon, in Syria, in Israel, in the Arab states. The greatest source of dissension is the Iranian regime, and on purpose. So, first of all, let me congratulate Madame Rajavi on the fine statement that she made and on the courageous leadership of these organizations that have done so much for the Iranian people to give them what they deserve, a free and a democratic Iran. Let's begin. Let's remind everyone that there's almost complete agreement that the Ayatollah's regime is the #1 state sponsor of terrorism, not only in the Middle East, but in the world. The last time we met in June, it was revealed that 4 people were arrested, and they were going to come to our gathering in Paris, and they were going to attack with bombs that gathering. One of the people arrested was an official of the Iranian government. The reality is, this is a country now that's become so desperate that they're planning to do assassinations and bombings in France, in Germany. Last year, almost a year ago, in Albania, a similar plot to kill those of us who were celebrating the New Year. This is unheard of in a country that wants to be part of the group of nations. Someone asked me why Iran was not invited to this summit. Well, I don't know why they weren't invited. But usually, you do not invite murderers, killers, despots, dictators, because there's no useful purpose. They're just going to lie to you. So we hope that all the governments represented here will support the approach that we believe in, that I believe is the policy of my government, which is taking a firm stand against Iran, taking a firm stand so that we don't do business with them, so that we isolate them, and so that we do the best that we can to get them to change their policies, and if they don't change their policies, to change the regime. Iran, under the Ayatollahs, has desecrated human rights, and it is beginning to get very, very questionable that this regime will last. The protests in Iran began in December of 2017. That's a long time ago. The Ayatollah, Rouhani, and that oppressive regime have used brutal methods to try to stop those protests. They've murdered people in the streets. They've executed people without any trials, without any rights given to them. They've done everything they can to frighten the people of Iran and to stop these protests. And instead, the protests are getting bigger, they're getting stronger, they're getting better organized, and the more they become oppressive, the more the people fight back. And they know that they have our support. We support what they're doing. We support their protest for freedom and for democracy and for a rule of law. We support them and we want them to know they're not alone. All these people are out here in the cold saying to them, You can have what you desire. You can have what you desire if you courageously resist that terrible government in Tehran. The Iranian people have a right to freedom and democracy. They have a right to be free of this oppressive regime. Madam Rajavi has laid out a 10-point program that's about as clear as you can get. And let me summarize it. It's simple. All those who believe in an elected leadership in Iran instead of a dictator or a monarch, all those who believe in the freedom of religion so people can practice the religion they choose, all of those that believe that women should be equal and treated equally in society. Do we believe that? And don't we demonstrate that where our great leader is a woman? Just think of how revolutionary that would be in that part of the world if the leader of Iran were a woman. It would, in and of itself, that would be a revolution. We want people to join us who believe that there should be rights, laws to protect people in Iran. People shouldn't be taken off the street and executed. People shouldn't be taken off the street and for some political reason put in jail. We know that's happening every day in Iran, and it's been going on since 1979. We want what's called a rule of law. Let the law determine who the wrongdoers are. Not the Ayatollah, not Rouhani, not some single individual. We want Iran, when human rights are reviewed in the world, we want Iran to be right at the very top. One of the great countries respecting human rights, not one of the worst countries, if not the worst country in the world. All these things are now within our grasp. Many, many see in the protests that are going on in Iran the kind of instability, the kind of fracture in society that goes on before there's a regime change. These are the kind of protests we've seen in other countries, in South America, in Europe, in Asia, in the Middle East. We can feel that the people of Iran are willing to keep protesting, to keep resisting, to raise the level of that resistance as much as is necessary in order to have freedom. Can we be, within a few years, a free Iran will be one of the leading nations of the world, and all of you can say thank you to those men and women who lost their lives to this oppressive regime and those who fought back. And all of us can share in that. And I tell you, we are going to have this celebration sooner rather than later in Tehran, and I want to be there with you. Thank you.
Change, regime change in Iran.
شاه سلطان ولایت مرگت فرا رسیده تو دیکتاتور من آرش آتش جواب آتش تو دیکتاتور من آرش آتش جواب آتش می جنگیم می رزمیم ایرانو پس میگیریم می جنگیم می رزمیم ایرانو پس میگیریم می جنگیم می رزمیم ایرانو پس میگیریم